This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Stirling Soap Company. I'm a big fan of shave soap. I've been using different brands for years, and I recently gave Stirling's shave soaps a try, and I've been very happy with the results. Stirling's shave soaps give you a great lather and a frictionless feel that allows the razor to glide right over the skin for a super close shave. No skin irritation and a clean, refreshing feel with no soapy residue after. I can tell you without a doubt, it's simply the best shave I've ever had. And my wife has noticed too. And here's the thing. With the ability to purchase 1-ounce sample pucks, you can try out different scents to find the right one for you. Give Stirling Soap a try today. Visit stirlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. Hey there, and welcome back to This Day in Sports History. It's December 17th, and on this day in 1933, it was the first official NFL championship game. The idea of a championship game was partly the idea of Chicago Bears coach George Halas, but that idea may not have really developed if the confusion of the 1932 season and the playoff game between Halas's Bears and the Portsmouth Spartans that followed had not happened the year before. Now, we'll talk more about that tomorrow, since that happened on December 18th in 32, but in essence, the Bears and the team that would later become the Lions had the same winning percentage. The winning percentage had been the decider of the champ up until that point, but since they were tied, well, they decided, let's play another one to determine the champ. After that game, league officials and Halas figured that it was a pretty good idea to play this thing off, and so they decided to make it an annual thing. League officials then divided the league into two divisions for the 1933 season, pitting the winners of each division into a championship matchup. And so here in 33, it was the first recognized NFL championship game played at Chicago's Wrigley Field. This was the high-powered offense of the New York Giants, who'd led the league in scoring, and the Chicago Bears, who'd allowed the fewest points in the West. These two had played each other twice during the regular season, with each team winning at home. Halas gets a lot of credit for being an innovator and one of the key guys responsible for the growth of the NFL, and that is completely deserved. But as we've talked here in the past few weeks about Giants head coach Steve Owen, he was ahead of his time as well. In the first quarter of this game, he opened up his bag of tricks and he lined up everybody to the right of center Mel Hein, making him an eligible receiver. When Hein snapped the ball to Harry Newsome, Newsome handed it surreptitiously back to Hein, who stuck the ball underneath his jersey. While Newsome feigned dropping back to pass and then fumbling a phantom football, Hein jogged toward the end zone, but he got a little bit too excited and he broke into his sprint, which for him was not very fast. His ploy was sniffed out by safety Carl Brumbaugh, and Hein was stopped at the 15-yard line. The Bears' defense secured the border and the Giants missed the field goal, coming away with nothing. New York was able to put a couple of touchdowns on the board in the second and third quarters to take a 14-9 lead. The Bears had the stout backfield with the galloping ghost Red Grange and Bronco Nagurski. Owen respected Nagurski's talent by saying the only way to stop that guy was to, quote, shoot the son of a bitch before he leaves the locker room. Trailing by 5 in the third quarter, Halas decided to ride his horse Nagurski to the end zone, giving it to him on 9 consecutive plays. On the 10th play, Nagurski again got the ball, but instead of running it, he pulled it back and threw a jump pass to Bill Carr in the end zone for the touchdown and the lead. In the fourth quarter, the Giants were moving the ball down the field, and once again, Owen pulled out some trickery. And this play should sound familiar. Quarterback Newsome tossed the ball to his halfback, but seeing his path clogged, he tossed it back to Newsome, who threw a perfect ball for the touchdown downfield in an early version of the flea flicker. The Giants were back on top. Halas and the Bears also had some things up their sleeves. With under 3 minutes to play and trailing by 5, the ball once again went to Nagurski, but just as before, instead of running it, he threw a halfback pass to the helmetless Bill Hewitt. And in a play you've also seen before, Hewitt lateraled it backwards to a sprinting Bill Carr, who took off for a 36-yard score. The PAT made it 23-21. The Giants still had a little time left, and they tried something similar to what the Bears had just done, but when the Giants attempted their lateral, the galloping ghost appeared out of the mist and wrapped up the man with the ball in a bear hug instead of trying to chop him at the knees, preventing the toss. Grange may have lost some of his speed here in the tail end of his career, but his football smarts were as razor-sharp as ever. The clock ran out, ending the thriller, and the Chicago Bears had won the first official NFL championship game. Now, this game mattered for a lot of reasons. A one-sided affair may have dampened enthusiasm to try it again, but the tight back-and-forth game caused interest to grow in the pro game. At this point, the college game was tremendously more popular. Grange called this the greatest football game that he ever saw or participated in. Of course, this game grew in prominence, and the postseason later expanded to include other teams, eventually leading to what we have now, culminating in the Super Bowl. On this day in 2022, it was the greatest comeback in NFL history. Week 15 of the NFL regular season, and this was the Indianapolis Colts and the Minnesota Vikings. The Colts built a 33-0 first-half lead, mostly through defense.
Cousins. A dart intercepted, and it's going to be taken in for a touchdown. Julian Blackmon filling in for the injured Kenny Moore, and what an impact for the man out of Utah.
That pick six with a blocked punt return for a touchdown and 4 field goals by Chase McLaughlin put the Colts in a very comfortable position at halftime. In fact, the win probability for the Vikings starting the third quarter was less than 1%. But Kirk Cousins must be one of those guys that you just don't tell the odds to. A touchdown pass to KJ Osborne gave the Vikings their first points of the game with 8:22 left in the third. But another McLaughlin field goal pushed the Colts' advantage back to 29 with 4:53 to play in the quarter. But then, the Vikings got busy. A C.J. Ham touchdown closed out the third quarter scoring, bringing Minnesota within 22. In the fourth, Cousins found Justin Jefferson for an 8-yard score, then Adam Thielen on a 1-yard pass. After stopping the Colts from converting a 4th and inches that would have probably won them the game, they got the ball back. A simple 5-yard dump-off to Dalvin Cook turned into a face punch. Here's Noah Eagle and Nate Burleson with a call for the NFL Network that day.
So 2:28 on the clock, no timeouts remaining. They're going to set up the screen with Dalvin Cook and let him chew up the yards. Dalvin Cook! There he goes! Dalvin Cook is going to be caught up with blockers inside the 5. Touchdown! 64 yards! Magic in Minneapolis!
And after a Cousins to TJ Hawkinson conversion, the game was tied at 36 and heading to overtime. On their second possession of OT, Cousins marched the Vikes 60 yards down the field to set up the game winner. Once again, here's Noah Eagle.
Greg Joseph for the NFC North. And the kick is good. It's a winner at US Bank Stadium. And the Vikings are kings of the North once again.
So the 33-point deficit the Vikings faced is now the new standard for comebacks in the NFL. It bettered the 32-point comeback that the Buffalo Bills pulled off against the Houston Oilers in the 1992 wildcard playoff game. Interesting fact, it must have felt a little like deja vu for Colts quarterback Matt Ryan, who was the quarterback when his Atlanta Falcons coughed up a 25-point lead against New England in Super Bowl 51. Ryan is the only NFL quarterback to be on the losing side of 2 25-plus point advantages. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. Also on this day in 2006, the San Diego Chargers' LaDainian Tomlinson scored his 28th rushing touchdown of the season to set the NFL single-season mark. Interestingly, he set the record in 14 games, failing to score in the final 2 of the regular season. He also had 3 receiving touchdowns for a total of 186 points that season, which is also an NFL record. Speaking of scoring a lot of points, on this day in 1991, the Cleveland Cavaliers scored a whole bunch against the Miami Heat, and with this being 91, I can only imagine Dan Patrick calling the highlights for ESPN after this one and saying the Cavaliers were en fuego because they were indeed on fire. The Cavs hit 57% of their shots and put 7 guys in double figures to rout the Heat. It didn't exactly look like a historic night was on the way after one period. Cleveland led 34-24 after 12 minutes, but then proceeded to outscore Miami by 58 over the final 3 quarters. Mark Price led the way with 18 points and 11 assists. He did that in just 17 minutes. John Battle pitched in 18 as well. Brad Daugherty and Henry James each had 17. Danny Ferry had a double-double of 11 and 11. Winston Bennett and Hot Rod Williams also scored in double digits in the 148-80 blowout win. The 68-point margin of victory was the NBA record until Oklahoma City's 73-point win over Memphis in 2021. And in 2019, 25-year-old Fallon Sherrick became the first woman to win a match at the PDC World Darts Championship, beating Ted Evans 3-2 at the Alexandra Palace in London. She would go on to win her next match as well before losing in the 3rd round. And time now for today's That Ain't Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact.
What you talking about, Willis?
What did you say? What?
During rehearsal for one of the scenes in the movie Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin was left with a permanent scar. While practicing the scene where Joe Pesci's and Daniel Stern's characters put Culkin's character on a hook on a closet door, Pesci bit Culkin's finger and broke the skin. Culkin said it wasn't until many years later that he realized the scar was still there. Hey, this is Steve White, the host of This Day in Sports History. Thanks for listening to this episode. One quick thing, I'm up for an award. I made the short list for the best sports talk podcast in 2024, and there are some heavy hitters in this category, such as the Kelsey brothers, Scott Van Pelt, and Bill Rhoden. Now, there's not much hope for me winning this category against those guys, but if you're a fan of the show, then you may know that one of my favorite sports movies is Will Ferrell's Semi-Pro, and one of the things in that movie is his effort to get his team to finish in 4th place. So I've kind of poached that idea and would love for you to help me finish in 4th place. I put a link in the show notes that will take you to the page where you can vote. You can only vote once in the category, so if you would cast your vote for my podcast, that would be awesome. Appreciate it. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.